Hello, everyone. Welcome to week number 2 in Science 200. This is our second week in the term, and we are going to jump in with both feet into the scientific process and into your textbook. So let's see what we've got going on. But before we move on, I wanted to explain to you about the sea eagle. Sea eagles are very difficult to photograph because they soar way above the cliffs in Scotland. And you notice how very close I was to this one. We were in a boat, and this sea eagle was hunting puffins. And now I was standing in a boat in choppy water. It was rocking back and forth, and somehow, I got good pictures of this sea eagle. So I'm very proud of myself for that. And at the end of the presentation, you will see a picture of the puffins that the sea eagle was hunting. All right, last week you learned about what are the natural sciences. So biology, chemistry, physics, geology, astronomy, environmental science. Did I miss any? Probably. But anyway, what are the natural sciences? Of course, my love is biology, but I love them all. I love biology and specifically microbiology, but I also was an environmental scientist for 11 years, so also very, very tied to environmental science. Love them all the sciences. We talked about how science works, and I explained to you in that first video that what you learned back in the 7th grade isn't exactly how science works in the real world. It's much more complicated than what you learned in those little steps that you take, develop a hypothesis, design an experiment, carry out the experiment, record the results, and write up your discussion. Yeah, it is not that simple. Repetition is very prominent in any research that you do. You have to make sure that you're getting the same results time after time after time so that you can show that this really is a phenomenon that's happening. You have to do so much background research before you even get started with a topic, because you have to know all about it. You have to know what to expect and what you think is going to happen and how to explain anything that happens. All of that's important. The peer review process is terribly important because other scientists are going to read your work and they are going to double check you. And you think, well, why do you need that? Well, sometimes you're wrong in your thinking. Sometimes everybody else is getting totally different results. And sometimes people are just dishonest. It happens. So that's the importance of peer review. The importance of revision. This is also very important in science. Oh my goodness, when I would write up my research and even my educational research that I've done, you revise and revise and revise a paper, and you let everybody that you know read it and critique it so that you get the best version possible of your particular work. You are going to do revision too. You will see starting in the second week that you are building on the information that you started with in the first week. So you pick a topic in the first week. The second week, you develop a research question to be answered. The third week, you find sources. So you see that you're building until the 6th week. You will have your final paper on your topic turned in, and it's worth a lot of points. So every week, once I give you your feedback, you can revise your work into the next week, and I will regrade it, basically, is what I'm doing. So revision is terribly important. You need to fix what's wrong and then turn in the corrected copy. That's revision. So you're going to have a chance to do that throughout this whole term. All right, you learned about Alexander Fleming and penicillin. That's a great story. We talk about serendipity a lot of times in science. Something happens by chance, but in order for a discovery to be made, the person who is surprised has to be able to correctly interpret what they are seeing. And Alexander Fleming did just that. He figured out that this mold was producing a chemical that was killing the bacteria, and that was penicillin. Now, you and I, all of us, have taken antibiotics before. Before Alexander and penicillin, there were no antibiotics, which is really crazy. And the first time antibiotics really were used on a mass scale was in World War II for our military members. Saved a whole lot of lives. You also chose your research topic, and if you did not choose one of those in the list in chapter 1, I probably will be emailing you, because you have to pick a good contemporary topic that has at least a little bit of controversy to it, so that you can figure out as you do your research what you think about this topic. Say, for example, with electric vehicles. Well, are they quite as green and environmentally friendly as everybody says? What about their batteries? What about the power that's used to energize them? GMOs, everybody knows that there's controversy with those. You can go in a grocery store and look at a packet of something and I'll say non-GMO to try to get you to buy it. Is it truly non-GMO? I doubt it very seriously. But anyway, you have to have picked a topic that is contemporary in the natural sciences. Can't be psychology, sociology. Has to be in a natural science. Now, you can tie something to one of those. And it also has to have some kind of issue that goes along with it, right? It's got to have at least a little bit of controversy and division of opinions about it. Okay, so then what do we have this week? So this week, chapter 2 is long, and I enjoyed chapter 2. I enjoyed reading it because I worked in public health for 11 years. I understand the importance of it. So I did like it very much. However, a scientist did not write that chapter 2. I could have written that in maybe 4 pages, but somebody else wrote that. Probably an English major. One of my best friends teaches English, and yeah, she could have done that. So anyway, it's very long, drawn out, but it's interesting, and you need to read through all of it. And it's about a disease called cholera. We still see this in the world today, especially when a hurricane goes through, and Haiti is really bad for this. When a hurricane goes across Haiti and their whole system of sanitation is wiped out and they have no clean water, people start dying from cholera. So cholera is a type of diarrheal disease caused by bacteria, Vibrio cholerae. It's a bacterial disease that causes a diarrhea where basically the water from your body just comes out. You end up having what's called rice water stool, and that means it's just milky white looking water that's coming out of your body, and you can be dehydrated so very quickly that you'll die. It is very dangerous. So they were having an outbreak in London in the 1850s, and they didn't know what was causing it. So the main way that people thought that diseases were passed along from person to person back in those days was through miasma. And miasma it sounds like asthma, doesn't it? Anyway, miasma. It's stinky, smelly vapors in the air. You know, they could smell something awful, and they knew that a disease was in the air. Right? Well, we know that some diseases are spread airborne, right? COVID, hello. Why do we have to wear masks? Yes. But many other types of diseases are transmitted in other ways. Cholera is transmitted through water. There are foodborne diseases. There are vector-borne diseases. There's so many different ways, just by touch with your hands or objects or whatever. So the main way of thinking back in those days was that all diseases were spread through noxious vapors in the air. And a famous scientist named John Snow documented all the cases of cholera and mapped out where the water supply came to all these different neighborhoods in London. And he showed that it was actually the water sources, the public wells, where people were catching cholera, and really they were being exposed to these cholera bacteria. So he figured out that miasma was not the only way that diseases were transmitted, and this was terribly important. So people had to figure out a different way of, especially getting rid of waste products. Dumping all of your waste from the whole city's population into the River Thames is not a good idea if that's also where your drinking water comes from, you know? So they had to rethink that. But it also shows how science works, because he had everything mapped out. He showed where the water sources came from, and you just couldn't dispute the results. That's good science. You use your data. You use your data to make a point, and that's what you're going to do with your scientific sources too when you get that far. Okay, so you're going to work through that chapter 2. It's going to take you a little while. There are a lot of sections to this week. This is the longest chapter by far. Okay, the other thing that you're going to do is develop a research question. So you've got to figure out a big overarching question to ask about your topic. Let me think. Say you're talking about ocean acidification. What is the effect of ocean acidification on mollusks in the ocean? Because mollusks are a tremendously important food source for human beings in the ocean, right? So that's a possible question. You got to think of a big question that you're going to try to answer by doing your research. And of course, I thought of ocean acidification because, whoop, there's my picture of dolphin strand feeding right there at the beach where I go to Seabrook, and I'll be going there in a couple of weeks. So dolphins work together collectively and herd fish up onto the shoreline. The dolphins come up out of the water and grab the fish, and that is one way that they get their food. They always come up on their right side. I've seen them do this individually. I've seen them do it in pairs, especially mother and baby pairs, because the mother doesn't want the babies to get in a whole big group of adults like this. And as many as 6 huge adult dolphins do this. So anyway, that's dolphin strand feeding. Along the coast of South Carolina, North Carolina, I don't know how far up it goes, Georgia, maybe down to Florida. This is the only place in the world where this behavior happens. Okay, and then tip of the week, break up your assignments into manageable parts. And I'm really referring to that chapter 2. Like, I would do that one section at a time. I'd spend 15 minutes, 30 minutes, however long to do the first section of chapter 2, answer all the questions that I need to, take a break, go do something else, come back to it, do the next section. That's a really good tip, because you don't want to just sit down and get burnt out and get bored, because you could. You know, if you sit and you do things for too long, you get bored. So break up your assignments into manageable pieces. This definitely will help you. If you do your work on your lunch hour, then take 30 minutes of that lunch hour and sit and do one of your sections out of your textbook. So anyway, break up your assignments into manageable pieces. Don't wait until Sunday night and then have your computer go out when you haven't done your work. Okay? So there are the puffins. I don't think one of those was one that sea eagle touched. The sea eagle in the beginning slide did come down and grab a puffin, And the sea eagle dropped the puffin. The puffin hit on the rocks just like that, bounced around a few times, and got up and waddled off. They waddle a lot like penguins. They're such characters. Aren't they beautiful? So anyway, just sharing some of my photographs with you. If you need anything, let me know. m.sigmon@snhu.edu. I'm here for you. I'm here to help you. I can answer questions. I can explain things. I promise I can. I'm pretty good at it. I can give you advice. If you need any kind of help whatsoever, please just let me know. I'll be glad to help you, respond to you, get you the help, find some resources for you if you need that. Please just let me know. That being said, I hope that you have a wonderful week number 2.